Hey guys, welcome to the Home Recorded Music Podcast. I am here today with Joel Foulds. I'm going to get straight into it. This is how I start the show. How did this begin? Why music, my friend?
So I wasn't really that into music when I was like super young. I guess I was around 8 years old. I only had listened to, Hanson and Five and a few of those kind of numbers. I wasn't really that into tunes, to be honest. I was just listening to whatever Nan would give me on CD for Christmas. I used to watch wrestling a lot with my brothers. And Kiss came on the WCW wrestling, and they came out and they did a concert or a live thing to introduce a character who looked like Gene Simmons, and then they played a show, and I was like, this is awesome. I love every second of this. From there, I was like, Mum and Dad, get me a CD. They knew that, Kiss were a bit full on and stuff like that for an 8-year-old, but so yeah, they got me a best of. Pretty much from then, I just started listening to Kiss when I was super young, and then I just started listening to rock and metal, and that's pretty much how it started. Then I started asking for instruments, got the guitar, started playing bass, and that was when I really got into like kind of playing music. From there, I just started listening to all different kind of metal and music, and I started listening to the weirder they looked, the better I loved them. So Motley Crue and Poison, if they look like women and stuff, I was listening with my eyes for sure.
Kiss and all those guys. What genre is that?
Well, it's hard to say. Kiss is a bit weird because it's kind of like they call them like shock rock, I guess. It's pretty simple, like just old school. Like their 70s stuff is very 70s rock, maybe a little bit of metal, bit of hair metal thrown in there somewhere.
Yeah, man, that's the one. So I noticed you sort of gravitate towards like the hair metal. Is that?
Yeah, hair metal's always been my go-to. So yeah, every single hair metal band back in the day, I was all for.
Can you help me understand what hair metal is? There seems to be some kind of like underlying sarcasm throughout the whole thing. It's like
they've got more of an emphasis on just what they look like in the show and the fashion rather than the tunes. Like I love the tunes still, but it's very much just easy listening metal, crunchy guitars and stuff like that, but a bit more melodic. And most of them have really big, good hair. So they tease them up. They look like women. They get little heaps of makeup on. That's a bit of hair metal, yeah. If they've all got nice, real big hair, and they call it metal, but it's pretty easy listening.
Yeah, and there's a band, is it Steel Panther? They kind of play on that whole genre a lot.
Well, they're influenced by all that, but I guess there was an easy way in for them just to kind of rip it off and kind of make, not a joke out of it, but make light of it and kind of bring that kind of feel back to it. Yeah, they're an awesome band. Steel Panther, great. But if they played their own songs that were serious songs, that'd be amazing. It's all like most of it, pretty much every song's a joke. So yeah, you kind of get over listening to the jokes and then you stop listening to it. If they came out and just go, all right, boys, we're doing a full album full of absolute tracks, that'd be awesome songwriters. It'd be one of the best albums ever.
I think that's the case with a lot of comedy music things. Like the only one that I seem to can kind of get away with it is Tenacious D. They got the comic element, but then I think the comedy throughout their songs kind of has an element of being able to be on repeat again.
It is. Because I listen to a lot of Tenacious too, and Tenacious is kind of like they're funny songs, but they're also written not poetic. As jokes. Like they're poetic enough, and they are, and they've got like the old medieval stuff in it, which is kind of they're still songs. Steel Panthers, like every song's about birds and doing, just drugs and stuff like that. It gets. And Tiger Woods and shit like that. It's like real jokey. So
yeah. So from age 10, you started playing the bass, and so did you start a band at any stage playing the bass, or?
I started doing a lot of stuff myself, like recording programs, like super early ones back in the day, and was just like layering stuff myself, just basic stuff. But I didn't probably start getting into a band when I was maybe 20 or something like that. I like to be more like play behind the scenes, like doing my own things, and I didn't want too much outside input from people. So
before you got into the band or whatever, you were doing your own solo stuff. What program were you using at the time, and what kind of methods were you using?
When I was doing basic recordings with the bass and stuff like that, I reckon back then it was just whatever free ones were on the internet. So I wouldn't even know the name of them, to be honest. Real ones where you can do like five tracks and then you get pulled up for not paying.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So, and then got into like the Fruity Loops and stuff like that, which is more like electronic stuff. Which is a bit of fun to play around with as well. And then eventually got into like Logic and stuff where you pay a few $100 and get the programs you can play around with. So once I started getting to Logic and Pro Tools and stuff like that, that's when I got a bit more serious and tried to hone in on the skills a bit.
Were you implementing a lot of your bass techniques into these songs, or was it mainly sort of doing electronic stuff, or
a bit of both? I ended up I'd start off with doing bass and stuff like that, and then but obviously when I wasn't playing guitar, like I can play the guitar a little bit now and stuff, which helps easy to write songs and stuff like that. So now it's a lot like I play enough guitar now to be able to write songs, and I know the chords and stuff like that now. So I've always been more into the kind of the show and the songwriting part of it and the producing part of it. And yeah, I'd rather be playing bass or writing a song rather. Yeah. I've really been drawn more to over the years rather than like musicianship as such, more like melodies and stuff like that. So like, you know, if there's bands playing, like that's why I've never really got into like full on like heavy kind of thrash technical metal and stuff like that. It's just there's heaps going on and you're like, oh, they're awesome players, but I've never really looked at that and gone, God, these guys are awesome because they're so tight and they can play 1,000 notes and stuff like that. I'd be more, you know, just give me some basic chords and a really good hook and melody, and I'm like,
I feel that way a lot too. You know, I grew up with grunge rock and stuff, and it was about, you know, how you dressed. You have the knees ripped out of my jeans, and you know, it was like
exactly right.
It was not only music wasn't just for music; it was a statement.
The kind of music we play now, we kind of bring influences from. So our guitar player's a thrash. He's a bit more of a thrash guy, and he brings that to our tunes. And I've always loved like ABBA and stuff like that, real poppy stuff. So I kind of try to bring the melodies and the more of the songwriting stuff to our tunes and stuff like that. So and then this is the way we dress too. Like, you know, we dress pretty ridiculous now too, and that's all comes from what you've listened to. And as you said, just whatever you listen to. 90s, you get the tall jeans. 80s, you get the tight pants. It's whatever you listen to.
Just getting back to what we were talking about with the whole culture of music and how it sort of creates an identity for people. That culture can impermeate people's minds, and especially the youth, and almost what they are as they grow up and who they can become. It's so powerful that it can literally change someone's psyche, almost a certain person, you know.
And that's awesome. That's the best part. I reckon that's the best part about music. You can do that stuff. You know, it brings people together and stuff. Like I've been going to shows since, as I said, like I could have taken any path, listened to any music or whatever, and you're always going to like fall into that category of people down the line as well. So because I started going to Kiss shows and, you know, Motley Crue shows and stuff like that super early, you see all the same people that you've seen for forever, you know what I mean? Like it's like all the people you've just ran into over the years everywhere around. Like it's that culture, you know, they're all dressing the same, even if they're, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. It doesn't really matter. So
you said you started a band when you're in your early 20s. Now, is this the band that you're currently in, or have we got a story prior to that?
No, so it kind of was a few lads, different lads, kind of same vibe as we got now. But we started off, we all had the big hair and stuff like that, but none of us were really like much chop at writing songs or whatever. So we were going down that same path of not the Steel Panther jokes, but a lot of the sexual innuendos, as they say, stuff like that. And we weren't really that, you know, it was more just four mates coming together. We did that for about, a fair while, probably like 5 years. It got to a point where two of us got a bit more serious about it. Then we got some other mates from there. We just started playing shows and stuff like that. And then since then, in the last year and a half, our singer left and I started singing for us rather than play bass.
So it's good to challenge yourself and jump into different fields like
that.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where we're like, it's so hard, you know, in a band, as you know, you've been playing in plenty and stuff like that over the years. It's like, it's hard to get four people in the room all the time, you know, get them in for recordings, get them in for shows, get them in for rehearsals. When I moved on to singing, it was like, all right, who are we going to get? Are we going to get on Muso Marketplace or whatever they call them and find a bass player who's just like a dude that we'd never met? We're like, you know what? Let's just do the old Parkway Drive when they got there, mate, just to jump on the bass. Even if you can't play bass, it's just going to work a lot better in the long run. So
that's another really good point, Joel, is talking about, you know, bands and the comradeship and the friendships. And it's all about the enjoyment of that fulfillment of sharing music with each other in the moment, and that music bringing you together. It's an anomaly, you know, it's a thing that these vibrations come together and they can form with another vibration, and all of a sudden the two combined, or the four combined, or an orchestra of 100 different instruments combine, and all of a sudden it's this
exactly right,
this thing. You know?
And that's what it is. It's more than just the music. It's just, as you said, it's the culture, it's the background. It's the idea, really, when we kept doing it and got a bit more serious, was at the start, it was less about, we want to get out there and, you know, become a big band and stuff like that. It was more just like, we're always getting together anyway, the boys. Eventually, we're all going to start getting older. You know, what's the best way to keep the lads, you know, coming together every few weeks, having beers, going to shows and stuff? Yeah, having a band like that, it just kind of backs us together. And, you got no choice now. You can't drift away from these lads anymore because you're there in your band and stuff like that.
RIOT After Midnight. Have you got music out at the moment that people can get access to?
Yeah, we got heaps on YouTube. We're trying to do something a bit different where most of our songs have music videos and stuff. So we got plenty of music videos out there. We got released our first album and we've been playing shows all this year and stuff like that. It took us a long time. As I said, because we're mates, we'd jump in the studio all the time and we'd pretty much all day would just be drinking and stuff like that. And then we'd never actually get a good recording going. So it took us 5 years to actually get an album done.
Nice.
Which is kind of funny. We've already got demos down for a new album that we're going to put out at the start of next year. By this time this comes out, we've got a cover of AC/DC's What Do You Do for Money, Honey? That'll be on Spotify and YouTube and stuff like that.
So you guys have done a few live shows.
This year we've done a handful of shows as me as the singer. So now it's a bit of a different vibe now. I'm singing and stuff like that.
Not only are you started off as a musician and doing your own home recording and doing the band and all this kind of stuff, you also run your own studio called Electric Circus Studios. You're currently at the third studio now. What made you decide to get the recording studio to begin with and then bring it up to where it is now?
When I left school, it was always in year 12, they're like, what do you want to do with your life? And you're like, well, who knows, mate? We've got no idea. When they sit you down, what are you going to do? And you're doing subjects like cooking and woodwork and stuff like that. And you got no idea what you want to do with your life. I've always loved music and I wanted to do something with music. I had no idea what, but just be in the industry somewhere. That was always my thing. Through school, I was just listening to tunes the whole time. And then I think someone stumbled across a thing like where you can make music and actually learn it as an actual career, like audio engineering. So you can be the one behind the desk, engineering the music, playing with the music, recording the music, eventually maybe producing the music. So I was like, yeah, get me into that. So yeah, jumped into that after high school, jumped into a course and got a bachelor degree or whatever they call it in audio engineering. Thousands and thousands of people getting this degree, same degree as you all the time. You know what I mean? It's not like it's unique. As long as you pay the money and stuff like that, you can pretty much get this degree. So once you leave these degrees, you're pretty much up shit creek when it comes to actually getting the job.
Sure.
You've got all these people graduating every year and everyone's going for these one or two opportunities around the Melbourne area or whatever. I definitely wasn't the best. I was nowhere near the best engineer there. So there was people who were going to get opportunities before I was. A few of my mates, creatives, the tattoo artist, they had a photography, there was a dance studio, and they were like, oh, we got an extra space in this studio in Ascot Vale. They're like, did you want to come and use it and make a little studio or something? And I was like, I'm in. That's my chance. So yeah, I just set up this little shop down in Ascot Vale there on Union Road, as that's where I met you, Shano. And then obviously, it was nothing special. It was a small little space, but it was awesome. It was like the vibe there was great. It was downstairs behind a tattoo studio and a burlesque studio. It was dirty. It was gritty, and just started off as you do from the bottom, just bad preamps, bad mics, not bad mics, but really basic. And just started from the bottom and just, started giving away freebies and, doing the real cheap, $15 an hour stuff. And and then that's where it started.
So from the second studio, you said, you started off with a certain amount. And I think this is a good story for anyone aspiring to do their own studio or anyone that's looking at home recording, etc. So, you went from having a one room studio that was quite, would have been 5 meters squared, moved from there into a bigger studio.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly right. Just built from there. So I'd met enough people along the way, like yourself and a few people, enough people who were coming in, doing a few regular things where I was like, all right, I'm earning a living now. Well, pretty good living. Not by no means was it great, but it was enough where I could take my vision to a next point. And by then I was packaging things up, trying to do something different where, I'd give people a recording and then I'd be like, all right, here's a free music video. Everyone can do recordings and stuff like that. So I was like, package it up with a few things. That's where it was like, all right, this space I'm in now, as awesome as it is, it's too small. So that's why I went the whole warehouse vibe for number 2.
You had the studio there. You've got a massive white wall at the second one. You also had you had the dance floor again, and I guess have an experience.
Exactly, yeah.
Have not just have a recording place, but have an experience in the essence. Well,
exactly right. I knew from the get go that unless you're one of these big dog recording studios, with the really good Neve preamps and stuff like that, you're not going to be getting recordings in every day. You're not going to be just smashing out work. That's why I thought packaging things up together and having a warehouse space where they could do their dance classes one day. The next day, you've got a recording going. The next day, someone's coming in to rehearse. The next day, you've got a photography shoot. The next day, you've got music videos going on. Sometimes people just hide it out just for the whole space, just for them to sit down, have some beers and write songs and stuff like that. So it was more of a creative space, that second one.
You are literally creating an experience. And I think that's the biggest thing to come away from going to a studio these days. You know, if people can do what they need to do in their own house or, you know, inbox in a laptop, what can you get that's bigger and bigger and bigger that you can't get from your laptop? And which brings us to your new studio, which exceeds the other two exponentially, where you have set up your own green screen room, which is, you know, 5 by 5 meters wide. It's huge. It's a huge,
well built too.
Well built. Yeah, well, I did actually build this for anyone that wants to go and check out the making of on Shane Blade Vlogs.
That's it. Yeah, killed it.
An amazing thing to have, because it's not everyone could have a fully built green screen studio in their house. So this is a big thing. You've also got a white screen studio, infinity wall there in a separate room. So you know, you can be running two things at a time here. And then on top of that, you've got the studio itself. And then now you've also running a podcast. Is there anything that I've missed?
Pretty much it. Yeah, you got the white wall, the photography room as well, and then you got obviously the recording part, and then you got the live band room, I guess, too, where the rehearsals happen and stuff like that, and the green screen room and potty room. So yeah, it was pretty much the idea from the move from the second place was, as much as I loved that idea of having everything in one room, you get your goods with your bad. So my idea was having everything in one room. This is going to be awesome. Like, you've got a dance studio with your photography room, and then in another corner there's a recording space, and other part there's couches with beers and stuff like that. Like, I loved that idea. But then you come into your problems where you're like, you can only be booked, you know, if someone wants to do a recording, all day recording, and then you've got people saying, oh, but I need to really get in and rehearse again, and I've got a weekly rehearsal coming up for dance, and then I've got a photography shoot booked, that I thought, you know, it become a bit of a mess. And the sound, obviously, if you've got a warehouse room, the soundproofing is not going to be as good for the recording aspect. So yeah, to get to this third studio here, and everything's in its own room, everything's well isolated, well soundproofed and stuff like that. Yeah, I also wanted a space where I could put a basketball ring too. Because
in the same facility, you've got your brother is also set up there with a gym.
Yeah, so he's got he's a personal trainer by trade, and we thought, you know, like, with this space I was looking at here, because we can be completely separate but still in the same plate. Where he's got his gym, we access the basketball court basketball warehouse part, and yeah, it's a good little break to head downstairs. Whoever's recording here for the day, they can go downstairs and play a bit of basketball and pump some weights too.
That's great. Well, that's a really great thing to have in a studio. I mean, not many studios are offering that kind of thing, to be able to go and do some weights and play some basketball in the actual studio.
And it's been a hit too. Like, obviously in between these lockdowns, we only started up probably in May with this new joint, and been in and out of lockdowns. But yeah, the people who do come, they love that.
There's also bathrooms upstairs and downstairs. I mean, you've created a bloody musical wonderland, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, appreciate that, Shannon. Yeah, well, that's what I wanted. That's what when I started that first place, I was like, that was the vision, to eventually, you know, got to put in the hard yards for about 6 years to get to this point. But I was like, that was the goal originally.
Now, I've talked up this beautiful studio that you've got. How does people get to the Electric Studios? Where do they find you?
Yeah, sweet. So obviously we're on the socials, Electric Circus Studios. We're based in Tullamarine now, so we've moved from Flemington out a bit further in Talla, just for a bigger space. Yeah, so Fouldzy Music as well. I think I'm called Fouldzy Music on Facebook and Instagram. And
you just mentioned Fouldzy. Now, this is a quite a recent endeavor. Began doing music videos and doing your own electronic music, as well as doing vlogging on YouTube and sort of doing a bit of I guess crash courses in how to make electronic music. Do you want to go into a bit of like what the element of Fouldzy is and how that
exactly.
sort of came about and kept going? So
yeah, I didn't think about doing my own tunes. Obviously, I was in the band and stuff like that, so I was getting my artistic stuff out that way a little bit. I felt like my skills are getting pretty good to a point where, you know, I'd have these good ideas, and you can't always give ideas. You know, you got to work out when to tell your ideas to people, like, you know, because, you know, they could be working on these songs for about a year straight, and they come into you and you start giving them these ideas like, oh, maybe you should structure it like this. And, you know, you got to push and pull when to tell people that, because, you know, that's their craft. So I got to a point where I was like, I kind of got that urge to be like, I want to start doing my own tunes at least. Found a new love for it, just being able to get my own stuff out without anyone really else telling me, what you can do or what you should do. Just have a bit of fun with it. And yeah, it's a slow build. It's actually the other day, some of my songs has got up to like 13,000 streams and stuff like that. I know if you get on playlists and stuff like that, you start to get more hits. But
that's the idea.
Yeah, it is one of those things where there's that much content, stuff like that. It's everything changes every few years, like and now we're at that point now where everything's so easily accessible that you put out an EP or a record, and they're just gonna choose maybe whatever the top 2 songs are that their singles are, and then they're not going to listen to the rest of the things. So imagine if there was an app, right? Kind of like a record player where you had to listen to the whole album, right? You just press play on it. You have to listen to it like it was intended all the way through. You can't touch it. If you want to hear that last song, you need to listen to the whole thing.
I really like that idea, man. I really like the idea of being able to, like almost like it's like a CD that you buy, and maybe as it plays, it goes through like some artwork on the album or something. That's
stuff like that. Yeah, because that was used to be the best thing. You listen to something A to B on a CD. You'd run down to Sanity or something like that, and then you'd look at the even the lyrics or the artwork, and you'd be looking at the front cover, and brings the whole experience in rather than just 100%. All right, here's this song, here's this. I'm not going to listen to the last 3 songs. There's so much out there. It's like they're just looking for the next best thing because they know in a click of a button they could have something different.
That's right. No, that's true. It's like
people are cooked.
I want to consume as much as possible. No, that's a really good point. So you've got an EP that's on Spotify. It's on you're on YouTube. You've also got Fouldzy on YouTube, which like I said, you do the vlogs as well. And I know personally that vlogs take a lot out of you.
Yeah, the vlogs, there was kind of a thing like the first lockdown of last year's, because as an artist, when things get really bad and stuff and you can't do too much, and I was always sitting in these studios on my own, you can't get people in and stuff. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, you want to keep creative, but you want to do different stuff. So I started doing the vlogs, like kind of vlogging my everyday life and stuff like that, and it kind of it kept me inspired. And as you know, with the editing and stuff, I was kind of getting into the editing. Everyone's like, oh, what are you doing lockdown? You're sitting there watching Netflix and stuff. And I'm like, I've never really been into that. I was like, oh no, I made a song today, I filmed it, I cut it down, I edited it for, as you said, 8 hours, takes ages. But then at the end of the day, it's like, bang, I love that. Like, I feel still creative. I'm smashing stuff out. Let me do it again tomorrow.
Yep.
And that got me through lockdown. It's got me through the lockdowns this year. And so just different avenues to keep the brain ticking over, so I don't just sit on the couch and drink beers all day.
So I think that vlogging essentially is a really good way to create almost like another channel. You don't have to be promoting your music, but you can be playing around with the music and have it in the background of your vlogs, and that gives people interest to know this person. I can I might like their music, etc., etc. So
that's it. It's more personable, and I always use it as a tool too. Like, looking back in 10 years, if like you've still got this stuff on, you can look back at a time in your life and see what you were doing. Like, that's why in the last few months and stuff, I've started throwing stuff in with my family and my niece and nephew and the boys having beers and stuff like that, just to remember a time. Like, sometime all these memories are going to be gone from in here. But if you can look back on YouTube and go, hey, look at this 15 years ago, this is what I was doing, this is what I looked like, this is what was going on. It's also another kind of cool aspect to it.
100%. And it's also just one last point on the vlogging stuff. I think I found it amazing for personal development. So for instance, you could make a video, and you can try and you say what you think you're going to say within the recording process. When you go into the editing process, you cut it down and you start cutting out the shit that you've said in the video that you're like, hang on, why did I say that? It's completely unnecessary that I said that. And I think what it does as an editor, as a vlogger, you essentially start sort of editing yourself, and you can see yourself in real time. And I think it gives you this kind of almost therapeutic way to start analyzing your own thoughts. It's like taking all the thoughts out of your head, putting them on a table, and then being able to sort them out, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? And I think I've found that to be very therapeutic, and be able to actually help me be able to personally structure the way that I even think in being able to articulate the things that I want to say better. Smart. Because of the way that I've been able to edit what I'm saying.
100%. No, yes. It's just, and the thing is just, confidence and everything. It just, it all comes through in those videos, and where you're filming something and you're like, hey, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Absolutely. I don't know why I asked this, but I asked this of all my
Yeah, hit me with it,
podcastees.
mate.
What is your legacy?
Helping someone along the lines, like I really enjoy when people come in here and they're like, they don't have really any musical ideas or talent, but they've got like, they've been through something and they're a really good singer and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, I've got these lyrics. You can do this music stuff. How can we put this together? And I like helping people out like that. If that's given them a bit of a help in life by, writing this tune, and I can help them out by getting them the tools and the avenue to release that song. Even my own songs, if I can put out a song and someone can start dancing to it or singing along, give someone a moment. Like we played a show with Right After Midnight before the lockdown, and we had heaps of people there. Everyone turned out. It was like a sold out show. Everyone was singing our songs back to us, and they were having a good time. We were having a good time. We were giving our bucket hats and stuff. And at the end of the night, everyone's like, mate, what a good night that is, something different. And if you can give people a good night and you're having a good night yourself, getting people together for a good time, and life's short. So gotta have fun, and hopefully that's what the legacy can be.
Beautiful legacy, Joel, and you articulated that really well. One last thing. Let's go over all the things, the places people can find you again.
We got Facebook and Instagram, Electric Circus Studios. We're here in Tullamarine, recording videos, podcasts, whatever you need, green screens. We've got that all here. You got Fouldzy Music, where you can come and we can work on some tunes or do some recordings. Facebook, Instagram, Spotify. Got the new EP, Wonderful Someday. It's out now. It's all uplifting tunes about one day we'll get over all this crap and the world will be great again. Right After Midnight, we've been doing big things. We got Honey, What Do You Do for Money? It's out on Spotify. We got the first album out. We're writing the number 2. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Our YouTube page is where we want the content, because we've got heaps of behind the scenes and a lot of fun things on there. And we do a podcast as well, Riot Before Midnight. So that's everywhere as well on YouTube and all your Spotify's and all that. And that's more of a music kind of rock and roll chat and stuff like that. So I think that's everything.
You heard it from the man himself. Now you'll be able to find all those links in the description. I'll chuck them down there for you. Thank you very much, Joel, for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
pleasure, mate.
Keep rocking. Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Right.